All right, in far more serious news, you are far more likely to be struck by lightning than killed by a shark. But that hasn't stopped a bit of debate over shark nets, which are supposed to protect Aussie swimmers from attacks. But it turns out they're also endangering harmless sea creatures. Shark nets. Much of the debate boils down to fear and hope. Fear of a sudden attack outside our comfort zone, and hope, however irrational, that these nets will protect us.
What they are is weapons of mass destruction for protected marine life in Australia.
Shark nets are still used at 51 beaches in New South Wales, 24 in Queensland.
It's the fifth whale to be rescued from shark nets on the Gold Coast this year.
The Queensland Government refuses to remove nets during whale migration season, despite recommendations from its own scientific working group.
And now there's 14 whales that have been entangled this year, and you just don't know if they're going to be surviving. Yes, they were released, but whether they survive or not is a completely different story.
Activist Andre Burrell submitted a Freedom of Information request to uncover the full impact of Queensland's shark mitigation program.
So we got thousands of images and hundreds of videos back from our FOI request, and the one thing that really stands out is just how few dangerous sharks there are. There's lots of tiny reef sharks, there's turtles, there's rays, there's dolphins, there's all these things that you don't assume are being caught in this program, but in reality that's the bulk of what's being caught.
Across New South Wales, it's a similar story.
As much as possible, we try and minimise that, and there's no hiding from it. We publish a report every year.
That report shows that in the last New South Wales meshing season, of the 376 animals captured, only 14% were targeted, white, tiger or bull sharks. The other 325 included harmless stingrays, smooth hammerheads and bronze whalers. 58 were threatened or protected species like turtles, a dolphin and a whale.
There's only been one case of a death at a meshed beach, and we've got 51 meshed beaches up and down the coast. So that would suggest statistically that they've been extremely successful.
Senator Peter Whish-Wilson suggests otherwise. In 2017, he chaired an inquiry into shark mitigation, which examined 70 years of data.
Nearly 60%, so nearly 2/3 of bites have been on netted beaches. And on that basis alone, you'd have to say that their policies failed.
Bondi Beach was one of the first in the world to install a shark net to protect bathers. 85 years later, the local council is one of 8 on the coast that want them removed.
There have been instances over 10 years where sharks were caught that were target sharks.
Isn't that a good thing?
It was only 19 in 10 years, and there is no guarantee that those 19 sharks would have translated into 19 attacks.
But for someone terrified of a shark, they'd say, well, that's money well spent.
Perhaps, but if you look at the bycatch, I think it's totally unacceptable. And given that we are in the 21st century, there are better ways of keeping people safe.
But under state law, the removal of shark nets is up to New South Wales' Department of Primary Industries and its Minister, Dougal Saunders.
I'm a beach goer. I love going to the beach, but I don't live in a beach suburb. I hear from plenty of people who want shark meshing to remain, and I hear from plenty of people who don't think it should be there.
New South Wales has made good progress with drones, shark listening stations and smart drum lines that send out alerts to contractors who can quickly tag and relocate sharks. Queensland's older drum lines don't send out an alert.
An animal would take a bait and literally stay there until somebody comes out. Now, often they end up dead. That's not the way we do things.
This year, though, Queensland is trialling smart drum lines at 4 beaches around Yeppoon. But the state still uses over 350 lethal drum lines along its coast and is refusing to remove 27 shark nets. Now, the Minister for Agriculture and Fisheries, Mark Furner, has declined to reply to our repeated request for an interview with him.
I've got no doubt at all that Mark Furner is more shit scared of the tabloids in Queensland and what they might write about him as Fisheries Minister or his government than he is about sharks and the risk of sharks actually biting people.
There's no doubt the issue has put politicians under pressure, and not just from their constituents.
I mean, imagine if Bondi Rescue is being broadcast all around the world and someone's taken by a great white at Bondi. That's going to really boost Australia's tourism industry, isn't it?
At the end of the day, it'll be my phone that's ringing if something goes wrong, or the Premier's or the Deputy Premier's.
Unfortunately, if we remove shark nets from this beach or from other beaches, the chances are, over time, someone's going to get bitten and there will be a tragedy. Just like I can say with almost complete certainty that if you leave shark nets on this beach, someone's going to get bitten and there'll be a tragedy. That's a fact of life in Australia, but no politicians want to come out and say that.
Of all the locals and visitors we spoke to at Bondi, no one was in favour of shark nets.
It's really clear that the shark net isn't doing anything to keep me or anyone safe.
A lot of surfers are against it. Yeah, and they're the ones out there every day.
We want to feel safe in the water. We absolutely love swimming. But we don't want all the wildlife and getting sea life getting caught.
You know, when you see dead or dying dolphins, tiny little baby dolphins that have died together with their mum in a net, that sort of stuff, it's really hard. It's difficult, but I think it's also important for the public to see. The last thing that should be happening to these beautiful animals that have died is that they're swept under the rug or just become a line on a spreadsheet.
It seems like the struggle there is between, you know, what we want to do and also the political sort of rock and a hard place they find themselves caught in. Do you think there's ever going to be the political will to change this kind of situation?
Look, I think maybe that part of it is not new. I think what has changed is the technology, and there are now much better tools for doing this very thing, and I think probably keeping us safer. But we clearly have, a kind of community psychological issue with sharks. There is, fear is something that's sometimes hard to explain and define. But I think what is shifting is the fact that maybe there are much better ways of keeping it safe.
And I wonder how much having shark nets is about tourism and making sure that the tourist dollars still come to these beaches, particularly when you find out that 2/3 of attacks are happening at netted beaches.
Well, when you think about it, it's not like a net is strung from side to side with 100% coverage. These things are floating around in a way that sharks can get in and out anyway.
So the mayor of Bondi, of Waverley, was telling us when we were there filming with her that Bondi Beach is about 1 kilometre long, roughly, and the shark net's actually only about 150 metres.
Yeah.
So, and it sort of moves into different spots. It's also not there year round. So this idea that there's a kind of fail-safe mechanism that's in place that's protecting everyone all the time is a bit of a fallacy. So I think actually there's a risk as well that we're being lured into a false sense of security because actually these things clearly are not doing the job that we're being told they are.
And politicians are too scared to remove them, have a shark attack and then have that be the reason, even though the shark could have come in anyway with a net there.